BluePrint is simply a one-column stack, but with more options for responsive layouts, backgrounds, and other features. If you know how to use a stack's one-column stack like this, then you already know how to use BluePrint. The one column has backgrounds, borders, and layouts. BluePrint has the same, but it has more options. It has responsive layouts just like the stacks column, but for medium and large devices as well, and 2 breakpoints, so we get 3 sizes that we can use. The controls are also very similar. We have fill and flexible. In addition to the standard width setting, we can also define width limits, so we can use BluePrint as a container for a maximum width. We can also set the alignment, and we can actually also use it as a fixed width if we want, just by setting these 2 limits the same. There isn't a specific fixed width setting because it's so easy to do it like this, it makes sense not to complicate it. We can also use all the child stacks from the ProStyle stack, like backgrounds, overlays, borders, and visibilities. This means that we have a great variety of backgrounds that we can simply add by adding a child. We can add gradients, we can add 1 color, 2 color, 3 color radial, and these are all contained in the child stack. And the great thing is, if you've set up a stack that you like, you can simply hold down the Option key and drag that background to another stack. You can, of course, also use the master styles for your backgrounds, so they're only ever defined once on the page in ProStyles, and each of these stacks will just get the appropriate class. Changing one in ProStyles will change all the backgrounds of that type on your page, so it's also very quick and easy, as well as being efficient. BluePrint can also do overlaps and space corners and links. The overlaps are all discussed in a separate video, so I suggest you watch that one. And I've just collapsed the overlap related groups now so that we can see what we've got more clearly for the layout. BluePrint's nominally mobile first, but don't let that term scare you off. All it means is that we can set controls for margins and padding. So if we add some padding to this BluePrint, and we'll be adding it to all screen sizes. So if we drop in a paragraph, for instance, so that we can see, then when we preview this, we've got the same padding at all screen sizes. So that's just like the standard one column stack. Now, if we want a different padding for medium sized devices, so say for tablets, then we can add a different padding for tablets. So we've got our padding set to 100 pixels here. If we now look at our medium settings, the padding is going to inherit. So all that means is that the padding is going to use the settings that we've set here, which are the general ones which start at the very bottom of 0 screen width or very small screens. If we want to override that, we could override it with basic padding. So change the padding with a slider, and the same with the margins. We can, if we want to add some detailed margins for medium-sized screens, then we can do so here. And all these medium settings are only going to be used above what we have set in the breakpoints, which is 640 pixels here. If we don't define any large sizes, anything above 1000 pixels is just going to inherit these medium settings. So it's not going to set anything essentially. If we move this padding down so it's a lot smaller, so that's 3 pixels on medium, and then for large we could say we wanted to go back up to somewhere 85 just for sake of argument. So now when we preview this, we're going to get large padding, medium padding, which was just 3 pixels, and then we go down to small, and it's back to 100 pixel padding. So it's very flexible, and you can set the padding that you need for the situation that requires it. And of course, exactly the same principles apply for the fill mode. So let's say you have a piece of content, it may be over an image or contain an image itself, and we want to make it 50% wide of whatever we've got it in. It may be inside another stack over something else, and we want it right aligned. But on mobile, we don't want it to be 50% wide, because that will be very tiny and end up getting very tall. So for our basic layouts, we're going to say, well, we could say 100%, but let's make it 96% wide, because that'll give us a bit of a space at either side, and we're going to have that centered. So below our median breakpoint of 650, we now get a 96% wide BluePrint. I think you can see that even with this extremely simple example, that it's extremely flexible and very easy to use. One word of warning: if you're using Foundation or Foundry or anything that's got a site width built into it, you don't need to start changing maximum widths and using blueprints all over the place. You can use them where you need to use them. If you just drop a normal foundation column in, that's going to have a site width of 1000 pixels anyway. If you've got some content that you need to control more carefully, then you can use BluePrint. If you just need to add a bit of padding here and there, then use BluePrint. It's not going to write any code for any of these things that are just left to inherit, but it does allow you to have more options. Even if you're just adding padding, then you've got all these options for padding. You can do percentages, you can do rems, so you can make BluePrint into a responsive spacer if you want, just by adding some bottom padding, say 8, and making it a percentage. Then we've now got a responsive space at the bottom of our stack. And really, it's very simple, and there's not a lot else to it. It's all this flexibility comes together to make something that can be very useful and a bit unique in terms of making layouts. But there's nothing at all that's different in terms of setup from as we started with the default one column stack. So it's very easy to get going, very powerful if you need it. Please watch the other video on overlaps, and I hope you enjoy the BluePrint stack, and there'll be some more BluePrint stacks coming soon. Thanks for watching. See you soon.